Good morning, good evening, and hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 3 of Stat Check. This is Ctan't touch this. Probably. It's probably what we're going with.
I think that's perfect, Dennis. You did that perfectly.
Yeah, that's exactly how those words are meant to happen. I feel like that's one of those curse things. That's like the objective arrangement in Data Sky Salvage. It's like one step away from being a summoning ritual for something or other. Those words were not meant to be said together. Yeah, data scry, vital intelligence. You're definitely not summoning anything of the material plane. I think if you play that mission too many times in a row, that's actually you're required to give it a go. I had a process with that. I've lost it. Hello, everybody. I am Ennis. I am joined, as always, by Anthony and Nathan, and also our first ever edition of a guest. Except for like with the one time we had Curie and Cliff on, but that wasn't really guests. We have above me Brian Horton, who is the TO from Salt City.
Things. TO's everything.
Yes, I planned for this.
End of sentence.
So
Just the TO.
I judge at LVO. I help Frontline out. I'm the head TO of Du Bois GT, Atlantic City Open, Salt City Open, soon to be another one, yet to be named. And I help judge wherever I can go.
Cool. We'll come up with some suggestions for the name of that last one that you can ignore as much as you like. So Brian is our first special guest. I would say friend of the show. We'll see how he feels at the end of the episode before we start handing out monikers.
He's definitely a friend of mine. I like to think, at least.
I mean, I
that's
didn't
fine.
paint you Havoc so you could play in a tournament. So
He did. He sure did. I had
And then Anthony promptly dropped them. So
I did drop one of them because it was metal and it scared the shit out of me.
oh no, I meant from your list. But sure, you go ahead and do the tell-alls.
Yeah, those Havocs were heroes. I mean, he knows that it happened because every time Brian's loaned me models, he's snuck one metal one in, and it's different from all the rest. So every time I go to pick all of them up, one of them startles me because I'm like, why is it so heavy?
I did the same thing with my Tyrant Guard, except it's the inverse. They're 5 metal and 1 resin.
So you just launch the resin one every time you go to pick them
No,
up?
I always ask my opponents to move them if they're in my opponent's half, just to freak them out.
Ines.
Terrible.
Ines, no.
Power moves.
Don't do
I'm
that,
making
Ines.
plastic ones right now, so I don't have to bring metal ones to cruise.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, but they've got their own weapons. Bone Blast Whip and Bone Cleaver. Oh, my heart. Where's your 2 attack reciting talents?
Yeah, the extra legs.
You got to have them to stab Harlequins. That's the only reason they're on my list is so they punch Harlequins in the face, and they don't need damage 2 for that. Anyway, this is Stat Check. This is our theoretically competitive 40k podcast where we talk about things that are adjacent to competitive 40k, anything that catches our fancy and whim, and also Nathan does stats. That's why it's called stats, and then you check what the fuck the rest of us are doing about 2 hours later as we've wandered a while down the garden path in competitive 40k. It's like Nathan is doing stats, and then he checks where we are mentally. It's nowhere near him, ever, even once.
That's why
we are live every Tuesday at 11 p.m. UK and other times.
6 p.m. Eastern.
6 p.m. Eastern.
5 p.m. Central Standard Time, 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, sometime in Australia time.
We're never live in Australia. Nothing is live in Australia. Have you seen their fauna?
Yeah, it's true.
Ugh, no, thank you. Yeah, this episode's called Touch This because Necrons did things. I don't feel like I should have to explain that, but I'm going to.
Gross.
I'm going to explain it a lot in like 5
Nathan's going to explain it a hell of a lot. But before we do that, let's do the easy bit. And how was your weeks, guys? We'll start with, we'll go circle for me because I did the least that I can talk about. And then we'll do Nathan, Anthony, and then we'll do our guest because that feels reasonable. And we'll let our guests introduce themselves a little more properly. And I'll probably ask some stupid questions because that's a thing I do now. And then I'll plug bonus content, and then we'll start on Stat Check. That's a good plan. This is very well prepared, as you can tell, Brian. I'm really winging this. I didn't wake up 10 minutes ago.
Yeah, because you woke up 20 minutes ago.
Exactly. So for me, I did very little this weekend outside of a practice weekend for the Team Scotland. So we grabbed a bunch of us on the Sunday, and we jammed a few games. I got to play Germany's Tyrants list. It is utterly horrifying. For context, it's 3 Neurothropes, 9 Zoanthropes, 2 Harpies, 2 Parasites and Mortrex, 3 Biovores, 2 squads of Gargoyles, a squad of Termagants, and not much else. Like 1 Lecter and the crowning moment for me was I played a test game into our Blood Angels list and killed 18 wounds of Centurions that were stood behind 7 wounds of Landspeeder Storm with a 5 field of pain against mortals and 5 Voidsmen, and still put 18 mortal wounds on the Centurions that were behind them, despite rolling nothing above a 2 on my damage for smites.
That's gross. That's
It was.
You should feel bad.
It was pretty stupid. Really good fun.
Yeah, it sounds like
for
a good
me,
time.
emotionally great. I got to wonder. I got to figure out some. Oh, there's a Maliceptor in those as well. That's what I missed.
That seems important.
Maliceptor explains a lot. Yeah. And it's playing the 3-inch movement after you fail a charge ability, which when you can charge through a wall,
I hate this so much.
You can't physically charge through. So we figured out if you put a Maliceptor on the corner of the WC ruins that's got like a thing within 12 and a thing that's within 12 that's going to smite, and you smite and do all your mortal wounds to the one thing, and then declare a charge to the other one that you can't physically make because you can't walk through a wall because you're a monster. You just get to fire and fade back the way and not get shot back. It's
not a pile-in, it's a move, so you get to go wherever you please.
I'm super excited to try this out this weekend. It's my favorite thing. I don't know why, but it's dumb and it's fun, and I'm excited.
Chris, blink twice if you're being held hostage and forced to say that.
How is he going to show us the blinking? Is he going to upload new profile pictures?
I need him to.
Chris, upload a vlog to Overcharged Plasma Gaming of you blinking twice if everything's okay.
Put it in the Discord so we can confirm that you're alive and okay.
Zane says, "Okay, I want to test this now." You absolutely should. This is always the most fun thing for me that comes out of WTC is that all the lists that everybody thinks are weird team stuff end up just being lists once people just figure out how to tweak out the weirdest. I know you were talking about the Blood Angels list for England, so we'll talk about that a little bit when we come through yours. It's not about the event, but yeah, that's been me. Other than that, I've been working a bunch. I have ordered parts to make my 13th Hive Tyrant because the one I've been using for events is definitely not going to get WTC approved because it's about the size of that, and the Hive Tyrant is much bigger.
Yeah,
she doesn't get shot much, so it never really comes up. But I'm not risking it at WTC. Yep. So yeah, nothing much for me. Nathan, how have you been?
I've been okay, as you can tell, because somebody noticed it in chat. Alex Taus noticed it. I am not at home. I am in the lab because I couldn't wrap up an experiment in time. But otherwise, over the weekend, I didn't really do very much. I built some more minis. I got my 3D printers up and running, and so all my hobby space is organized and completely plugged in, so I'm doing a bunch of stuff with that. Otherwise, I was reminded how variance can be a terrible, terrible thing when I failed 15 out of 16 feel no pains on a Hive Tyrant and watched it explode, which made me very sad.
You should not do that. I don't recommend that.
I know. I just failed every single feel no pain I was called to roll, except for the one that didn't matter, and so it violently exploded all over the place, which was awful.
That reminds me of the game.
Worst aberration of stats this weekend.
I played a game a while back with Crusher Stampede, where my Tyrant took 13 wounds from airburst fragmentation projectors, AAP1, and died. With me Commandery rolling the last save.
That is...
Well, I can't. But conversion, notably being the mission where if your Warlord is dead, you don't get CP.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I immediately lost
for that.
That was also conversion. I immediately lost all of my imperatives, all of my CP generation, and everything else. And I was just like... I just looked at my opponent and I was like, I think this game is pretty over because I'm not going to be able to do anything for the rest of the game.
Was this in your Crusade League?
No, fortunately, it was just...
Your undefeated streak remains.
Fortunately, I have tied once because I couldn't make it to a game because I wasn't feeling well.
Well, as I'm sure Anthony will tell us, that counts as undefeated.
That's no losses, though, baby.
I mean, I just want to tell everybody Crusade is silly for a reason. So I have a Winged Hive Tyrant that ignores invulnerable saves, is T8, has a 5-up Feel No Pain, has 2 extra inches of movement, an extra inch on the charge and on advances, in addition to adrenal glands, and just kind of flies around.
And this is your backup one because you have the other one that's better, right?
Yeah, then there's the Walking Hive Tyrant that is toughness 9, has plus 2 inches of movement on top of adrenal glands. And then every time it attacks, it picks a unit it fought and does D3 plus 1 mortal wounds to it. It's quite something. Oh, and the Winged Hive Tyrant also has a parasite attack where if it does enough, if it kills something, it pops out Ripper Swarms, and its Bone Sword is now AP5. It's ridiculous.
Why?
So
I don't. It ignores invulnerable saves and is AP5. I didn't say that it was right.
And you've got the Leviathan strat for AP6 just in case.
Yeah,
Just in case.
just in case I need to take somebody from a 0 up to a 6 up normal save for some reason.
Or you want to kill Sanguinary Guard without them taking a save.
It's true. Well,
Okay, so let's ignore Crusade
let's move
forever.
past
The next time
Crusade
Crusade gets mentioned on the podcast, I'm leaving. Is basically.
You're the one who brought it up in it.
I know,
You
but
brought
that's
it up.
because I was trying to slack you off.
Too
I know,
late.
but I decided to detail my Crusade adventures instead for you.
I know, and I don't know how you thought that was the path I was trying to take you on there, but
I don't
Too
know.
late.
I have a Dimacharon with the Synapse keyword now. It's funny. It's
dude, stop,
cool.
please, stop. Anthony, how was winning a GT?
Winning a GT was cool. It was lots of fun. I got to play Emperor's Children. Brian runs good events. That's a good combo for me to have a good time with. So that was pretty cool. I did play my round 5 and 6 opponents I played my round 4 and 6 opponents in round 7 and 8 because they also made top cut. So I got to play the best 2 people there that weren't me twice. So that made for a difficult path to victory, but we did it anyway. Path to victory 0.5, I guess, because there was a draw there.
Path to undefeated.
Yeah, path to undefeated. That's what we'll call it. So yeah, it was a good time. Sam, I can't pronounce his last name, so I'm going to say P. I think it's like Precipio, is a great friend. He's awesome. So getting to play him twice is good. And obviously I love TJ. I've been friends with him for a long time. He was instrumental in my come up. So getting to play him twice, also okay. Yeah, we had BCP do its level best to betray Brian in the 3rd round. So walked up to the table in the 3rd round, assuming I was playing a 2-0 Sisters player, and gave him the business en route to a 13 to find out after the round that he was 0-2. So that was not ideal.
Anthony,
but aside from that,
you don't need to dip that poor narrative-focused Sisters player into the mud.
dude, he was playing dude, it was Bloody Rose. It was a good list. I walked up. I was like, all right, you got to be focused. Sisters, and be on it. And I was on it a little too much.
You can take your foot off somebody's throat a little bit if they're already dead.
I didn't realize. I didn't know. I was like, well, on the upshot, at least you're 2-1 now. And he was like, nah, bro, I'm 0-3. I was like, what?
Everyone in Discord was like, why is Anthony just kicking the junk out of some poor 0-2 player who shouldn't be there today?
Yeah, I didn't know. I fucked around and he found out is basically what happened.
BCP is good software, and that's made all the sadder by the fact that I don't know if any of you have ever used it, but Tabletop TO announced it shut down at the end of the month last week. And Tabletop TO is good software. It's good pairings. There's a button that downloads all the lists in one PDF. It's the best thing, and I'm gutted it's gone because
it was the best.
One less option for the dominance of BCP.
Yep. But aside from that, overall, really good weekend. My girlfriend came with me to this tournament, which is the first multi-day tournament she's been to with me since I think the second one I did, which was March of 2020. So it's been a little while since we've done a multi-day one together, and we got to spend it in Syracuse. There was a lot of really cool stuff really close to the hotel. The hotel itself was super cool. It was a really old hotel that had been obviously updated to be nice. As we sat down for the first meal in the hotel, the waitress was like, yeah, this place is haunted. Some dude jumped off the 3rd floor in the 1800s. We were staying on the 3rd floor on the side of the building where it happened, nothing out of the ordinary in our room, but I'm told forward and backwards that place is super haunted. So,
well, you're going to love Scotland, buddy.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure.
Every cobblestone is haunted. Just every single one.
Apparently. Oh, and
every sheep paddock and lake.
Yeah. In other good news, I'm going to be able to solve my passport situation. So, as I've been working with Ennis to clarify, we're going to spend a whole bunch of time together in his country.
Whee! 2 days, buddy. But yeah.
I mean, I consider 48 hours a long time. You spend 1 hour with me, and then you're like, all right, I got to go to bed to resolve this. So.
That works really well. You're definitely getting the Uber from the airport. I'm not sending my mom.
All right. That's fair.
That's good. So, Brian, you get to introduce yourself to us. Tell us about yourself.
So I'm known as Legion Brian Horton, or Horton Brian, whatever. I'm a TO extraordinaire, apparently. I have been running Du Bois GT and helping with that for a long time. I've run every local event in Syracuse, New York for probably the last 10 years, up until probably 2 months ago. And I've done, I don't know, a ton of different stuff for Frontline. I help at Adepticon. I've helped at LVO. I was supposed to help at Nova this year, but my work said no to one event finally. And I run the Salt City GT, which is a brand new GT that was just this weekend. And I try to do whatever I can to help and grow the community. I run the 13th Legion. We're members of Death or Glory Gaming out of the Midwest, trying to be their first East Coast team to encourage the spread of sportsmanship throughout the hobby, which is something I've been a strong fan of for years. So that's kind of what I do. I'm primarily a Tyranid player, but I own all but 2 armies in the game because at one point I owned them, and the last time I owned Drukhari, they were like 90% Finecast, and I sold all that off after playing with Finecast once. And I don't own Grey Knights because one of my buddies was sitting in the attic one day and went, I would really like to play Grey Knights. And I'm like, there's an army over there on the shelf. You want to buy it? So,
Fair.
But just ran the Salt City GT. 74 registered players, 55 showed up. Really smooth. 8 rounds total. We, at the end of 6 rounds, we went to 4 players playing off against each other, and then everybody else played on for additional prizes. BCP had a hiccup where it turned my 3rd round pairings into completely random, but outside of that, it was a pretty smooth event. Went really well. We used the GW style terrain. Everybody seemed to like it, Anthony included.
Yep.
We used, from the company that makes the WTC terrain, we bought their variant of the GW terrain when they were doing their beta test on it, and it's really nice. So we were pretty happy.
Yeah, the terrain worked super well. That rule so to expand on that for a second, the way the terrain worked is that it used the GW second layout, which is essentially the one that's meant to be used on Hammer and Anvil, but that layout actually just flatly kind of is the best one. Because if you play that layout and even you use it for the Dawn missions, then most of the objectives outside of the one in the center, obviously, is in the open, but then the rest are within cover. And then all you have to do is make a rule that you can rotate the ruin, and everything works fine. And it worked really well for the whole event, which was cool.
Yeah, I like the rotating the ruins that are in your deployment zone with the GW layout, because it just allows you, because you've got the big, you got the square there, so just quick turn and done.
Yep.
It's good to see that there's ways to make that terrain work.
And one of the things that people were really worried about was the 2-inch area terrain rule. Of course, we did you can't consolidate out of combat with it. So you couldn't step off the terrain and go out of combat cheekily to gain an advantage. And that seemed to be the quickest, simplest rule to edit in there.
Nice.
Yep.
That rule's real stupid.
That rule is
That's
really
terrible.
good.
We're using ITC's ruling for it that they used at LSO for the event that I'm helping run in August, which is you can't use the 2-inch engagement range to make your charge easier out of reserves or if you teleport around the table.
That is not nearly enough of a change. I actually vastly prefer what we used at Salt City, where like the charge is just slightly easier and that's fine, but you can't dance shenanigans your way out of getting hit back.
Oh, I'm
except by
tempted
doing
to,
it the normal way. Come on.
I'm tempted to just tack that
no.
on. But I've tried to convince my local people, and I will be trying to convince them to just use the WTC ruling because I think it's a little bit better.
I would hardly
It just
recommend it.
ignores the whole situation.
It's been really nice to not have to interact with that change more than absolutely minimum.
Yeah.
So we might end up doing that. We'll see if I can convince the other 2 TOs who are helping run the event if they want to run it that way.
What event are you running?
I'm running an RTT, so I don't have to run something on that scale. Don't worry about it, Brian. I run tiny things.
Oh, look, I run 1 to 2 RTTs a month. I completely understand.
See, I run an RTT with 2 other people like once every 2 to 3 months because Chicago has a tiny competitive community at this point, if you don't include all the people who drive in for Adepticon.
Does that count?
No.
No, not
It
at
does
all.
not.
Okay, before we bounce off of Salt City, what I will do is quickly shout out Jeremy, who placed 6th at the tournament with his Dark Angels list, which I've not read and choose to believe is just Ravenwing bullshit again.
It is
in
just
fact-
Ravenwing
Cool.
bullshit.
Yeah, that's fine. I didn't want to read it because it would hurt my head.
Yep.
I don't want to read about speeders. I don't want to read about what kinds of speeders Curie can make work.
Yeah,
They're
go
not real
fast.
units, and I refuse to acknowledge the difference between a hail strike and a hammer strike. So until somebody else is doing well with it, Curie, you're getting recognition, but you can get a little bit of recognition.
Curie's
A little
just
bit of
the Captain Ravenwing needs.
Someone's got
The only one it's got.
Yeah,
It's
I was gonna
also
say
that.
it's got to be
True.
somebody.
There was 3 Ravenwing lists at Salt City, if I remember correctly.
I think there was 2,
Wow.
and then Curie played the other one.
No, I'm pretty sure there was 3 because he played 2 Ravenwing, if I remember correctly.
No, he played a Ravenwing and a Deathwing. He played all
Okay.
the other Dark Angels. He was like,
Yeah, he
I
played all
get to
the
go farther.
On the
and I-
planet, yeah.
Yeah.
I am actually the Grandmaster of the Dark Angels. Is what Curie got to do over the
2
weekend.
Ravenwing, 1 Deathwing, and they all played each other.
Awesome. That's perfect. Lovely. They had their own mini RTT amongst themselves for
Yeah.
who is best. I guess we could move into stats. We have a lot more events this
could.
week. We could. I guess I'm going to force you all to do it so
Right.
that I can talk about numbers.
That's a better option, yeah.
There you
Yeah.
go.
So we're going to talk about stats this weekend. We're going to walk through some win rate stuff, and then we're going to walk through some overrep stuff with the overriding theme that is the title of the episode getting touched on towards the end, where we Ctan't touch this. People are already
That's
in
where you
chat
went with that.
making lovely puns, and we're going to talk about how you Ctan't touch the Necron secondaries because they break the whole thing, but that's later. So we had a lot more events this weekend, so we're starting to really get a shape for the Nephilim meta overall. If you guys want to take a look at some of the data that I'm talking about, you can look at the meta dashboard, which is on stat-check.com. You can click on meta dashboard and you can kind of poke through it. The other thing that I'll talk about is that there's been a change in our overall rankings, and I'll talk about that after we talk about. I have to do it, Innes. It's important. I don't know what happened.
What did you do?
Oh, all of a sudden all of the sound went out, and I don't know
Oh,
what
no.
happened. No.
I think a bunch of us just muted at the same time. So
We're on mute so that you can have your moment, Nathan.
Yeah.
I was like, oh man, it
We were
got
trying
really
not to interrupt you.
Yeah.
No,
Watch
it got-
this, Nathan.
It
Now
got
Innes is
really,
muted.
it got really, it got really quiet. So our top performing faction of the weekend that didn't have 10 or less players was Necrons. They won 64.2% of their games, which is above Harlequins and above Tyranids win rate, and better than they've done for quite a bit now. So we've got Necrons. Necrons have their own tier, and instead of it being tiers like the Necron tiers that it was, it is now the Necron tier above all other tiers, apparently.
Yeah, it turns out all that Codex needed was 2 rounds of points drops, sweeping core changes twice, second and game-wide secondary changes and CP changes that they happen to benefit from because they don't have to buy World Round the Silent King, who also gets +3. So all they needed was like 18 things to go right all
And
at
the
once.
Silent King getting core and vehicle was just, fantastic.
Yeah.
As long as
Sweeping core
everyone-
changes twice.
Yeah. As long as everyone else gets way worse and they get way better, then finally they can be pretty good. As long as you don't have any killing power in your army.
Yes. Harlequins are next for win rate for the weekend at 62.4. Tyranids are right after them at 58.3. Sisters are still in the running for being one of the top factions in the game at 57. Then we actually have Drukhari popping back up at 56. And then we drop into the 50s with Custodes and Imperial Knights, Chaos Space Marines at that kind of 50 to 52 range. And then it drops into Chaos Knights, Craft World Eldar, Death Guard, and Space Marines, and Orcs at 45 to about 50. And then Astra Militarum at the bottom there at 44% win rate. Our lowest performing faction now, and probably for the foreseeable future, depending on if they don't get competitively unabandoned, is Adeptus Mechanicus, who had 11 players over the weekend and are currently at a 38.9% win rate, which is just abysmal.
Ouch.
It's not a good time to be those armies.
It is
No.
quite low.
And there were
Yeah.
11 players, so they're just sneaking out above it. Gene Stealer Colt's not doing much better. They had 13 players, and they're at a 40.8% win rate for last weekend.
One
Not
thing that
good.
is nice, though, if you go onto the meta dashboard and you ignore the sub-factions that aren't real, like Ultramarines, Imperial Fist, and Raven Guard, everything's within 40 to 60 for probably the first time in a long time. So it's
true.
getting slightly healthier. Slightly. Not a lot healthier. But
I actually think the meta is doing better. Because Harlequins aren't really winning events, so I think their win rate is kind of gratuitous, but it's not translating into GT wins really per se. So I don't think it's as big of a problem as it could be. The Necrons might be a problem, which is actually what I'll just transition into right now because we'll talk about some of the overrep data and the GT wins data. Sisters are had the most top 10s at 15 and 6 top 4s and 1 GT win. Tyranids are right behind them at 13, 5 and 1, and then Necrons have the best conversion though, because they have 12 top 10s, 7 top 4s, and then 3 GT wins. So they actually ended up winning 33% or a third of the GTs that we were tracking over the weekend. Those are events with 25 or more players and 5 or more rounds. So we do have Necrons popping in real good because they have a 2.93 over rep ratio into the top 4. That's almost 3 times more Necron players in the top 4 than is expected based on their overall meta representation.
Yeah, I mean, they were really strong at Salt City this weekend. I'm best Xenos and what we called the best of the rest, which was the best of the not top 4, were both Necron players. So doesn't surprise me.
It's quite a good faction. And yeah, Nathan does unfortunately have a little bit of background noise going on. It's just the artifact of him being in the lab with lab things going on. There's a ghost in his literally in his camera. So
it's an NMR. It's an NMR machine. It's just whistling every couple of seconds. It's a giant magnet used for detecting protein structures. I just have my office next to it, and I can't move any further away from it.
Or turn it
sounds
off.
like
it's kind of
birds.
important.
It does. It is a whistling sound, and it does sound like a bird just whistling every second or two. Well, as Curie is saying in chat, he'll pull it out of the podcast itself so it doesn't annoy people. Except
This is why we pay Curie the money.
Yeah, it's the
whatever amount of
all the
money.
birds.
Whatever money Curie decides that we should pay him is the amount of money we should pay him.
Which proteins are we detecting?
I actually don't know because I don't use that machine. I use the other machines that are in the other room. I definitely will take everybody on a video tour at some point for bonus content. You can all see the lab.
Ooh,
with its $20 million of machines sitting in a corner.
Your workplace walkthrough is a lot more interesting than I'm assuming mine and Anthony's would be.
Well, this is mine. Ready?
And
you did it.
I was gonna say Anthony's workplace is just his car and driving to places around the city.
So
not anymore.
House tour.
No, not anymore.
No, I've been remote for like 8 months.
Oh,
yeah.
And I'll post a picture of the office dog in the Discord, and that's all that anybody will care about from my work. So that's fine.
The places people go with your work is pretty.
Yeah, that's fine. I could show you as many pictures of Scotland as you want, but you know,
so
I can take a picture from out the office door and show you like the lovely coastline of St Andrews, but it's not really a work tour, is it?
That's fair.
And my work would be walking around a game store full of Games Workshop product that has an art store attached to it. So it's good fun.
I don't think anybody would complain about that. No.
Yeah, that seems cool.
It's fun. It's a good time.
But yeah, that's like the gist of kind of how the meta is shaping up overall. The one problem faction is just Necrons. They've increased their win rate every single week, essentially.
Hell yeah, Tyranids officially not a problem. Only at 60% win rates.
Yeah, Tyranids are still a problem. But
no,
wait, Tyranids
you
are
said
dead.
the only problem faction is Necrons.
It's true. The only problem faction, and you can quote me on this, is Necrons. Definitely not Sisters, who are not definitely at a 2 for their over-rep ratio into top 4s. There was one event this weekend that we tracked where it was like a winner and then 4 Sisters players in a row from 2nd through 5th place.
So Sisters players can't seal the deal is what we're getting.
Yes, definitely. Definitely that is the message that we should take away from that data point. No. Is that Sisters aren't a problem because they never win anything. That's definitely
just like Harlequins, because their one player can only win 80% of his games. Like, come on, dude, do better.
Harlequins only had 6 top 10s and 2 top 4s.
But they also only had 6 players, so
it's true. No, they had. They're still sitting around 3% of the meta. So they're
That's tiny.
Small.
it is a small overall representation, but remember when they used to be basically 2 to 3 players instead of 2 to 3% of the meta? So they've kind of kept a large amount of the bump that they receive. They just haven't kept the 6% of the meta.
After judging Adepticon, I never want to watch a Harlequin on Harlequin game again in my life. That was worst finals I've ever had to watch, judge, and do anything with. And I was just like, yeah, this is boring. Well, look how exciting it is.
It was really rough to watch as a British player as well, because I'm like, I really want Robert to win, but I can't deal with his ego if he does. So I didn't know who to root for. Like, it was terrible.
It was really hard to parse to what armies were doing what on stream, because everybody chose basically the same 2 or 3 schemes for their
No. They had bits of paper on them, remember?
Sure. Bits of paper. Yeah, definitely that helped.
And the partially assembled models. Because if you saw more than at Adepticon, there was tons of Harlequin players. There was 2 people who had all their bikes with people on them, or all their Shadow Weavers, whatever, with people shooting the guns. And I'm like, hey, look, it's the gunless boats. Yay.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you something. I have all of those boats, and I just hate modeling crew on them. Ever since I put some crew on Raiders and Drukhari boats where they're hanging off the sides, I'm never doing it ever again. They only ever break. It's the only thing that ever happens. And I get it.
Having them hanging off, but at least have a guy holding the gun and shooting the gun.
Never.
That's not as bad.
You say it's not as bad. No, I'm just kidding.
For like my Goliaths in my Gene Circle army, I modeled them with like all open hatches with guys firing the stubborn. And I keep thinking, I'm like, why on earth? Why did I do this to myself?
Why did I do
have to
that?
pay 8 extra Gene Circle dudes that I didn't have to. I chose this.
I turn all those riders from all of those Star Weavers, Void Weavers, and Raiders into extra Cabalites, witches from Venoms, and then extra troops from all of the different boats.
That makes sense.
It's how you make an economical choice as a graduate student.
It's how you get your conversion request rejected at events.
Sitting on a shelf behind me. I don't make good economical choices.
I mean, I understand. I also would not consider any army that rhymes with Stealer Cult or Mechanicus as,
I don't recommend
life choices.
As somebody who plays Gene Stealer Cult and Mechanicus.
And considering I have Gene Stealer Cult over there painted, and the Mechanicus is about to be assembled behind me, so yeah.
Somebody described Gene Stealer Cult in a Discord I was in as, you will spend £7,000.
That's the AdMech army, like, sitting behind me.
Oh, yeah, that is wild.
That's exciting, though. I do think that model range is amazing.
Oh, it's gorgeous.
Too expensive.
I have some level of doubt that Ennis plays AdMech.
So I own a War Convocation, which is not the same thing as playing AdMech, but what it means is that when we were trying to draft lists for like 2019 WTC, and people went, so who's got an AdMech army? And we all went, we have an AdMech army. And what we actually owned was 17 calls and 30 Castellan robots and nothing else. It's like, yeah, so we've all got exactly the contents of one War Convocation and nothing else. Oh, so who's got Ruststalkers? I got 5, and I got 5 Infiltrators. Who's got Iron Striders?
No.
Onager Doomcrawlers? I personally own 5 Onager Doomcrawlers with neutral lasers. But
just in case.
Yeah. AdMech's one of those weird armies where you can definitely carbon date an AdMech army by when they bought it.
Yeah,
based on the person's collection.
Yeah.
Do you have any Ruststalkers? If yes, then you probably
have. Do you own way too many boats? 8th edition. And do you have way too many Castellan robots? And 7th
edition.
Yep. That makes sense.
But I think it's worth touching on after talking about how Necrons are looking like they're a problem, because they've gone up 24% in win rate since the beginning of Nephilim.
It's more than triple.
They started at a 40 and they went up to 64 this week. So it's quite something. It's worth, I think, taking a moment to talk about why Necrons are a challenge and why they're winning events. If Anthony and Ennis kind of want to square up with that question.
Who first?
I'll go through the systemic stuff, and then we can riff on why that matters, if that helps.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so they got decent points drops. So you saw things like 40 points come off of Ctan't, 20 points came off the Silent King, and then some general tweaks outside of that. But broadly, the big centerpiece stuff that can do a lot of damage came down in price, which means you can just fit that little bit more in. And then they made everything just a little more reliable by adding core onto stuff. So you gain access to some stratagems you didn't have access to otherwise, and also Silent King rerolls, which is very, very important because the Silent King makes things that are normally, you have things like the Doomsday Arc or the Annihilation Barge that are fairly good shooting platforms, but fairly inconsistent, and then you give them full rerolls to hit, and it turns out that was an entire build in 8th edition for a while, and that was, kind of one of the design tenets of 9th edition was stopping that. So when you give one army that back, it's kind of pretty strong. And then on top of that, with the Nephilim changes, Necrons are very well positioned to benefit from basically all of it, because they don't have amazing core stratagems, but they do have one or two they want to use a turn, which lines up really well with gaining 2 CP a turn. They don't spend a huge amount pre-game, which means they can spend a lot on detachments, and the Silent King gives you 3 flat for existing, which means that they can sidestep a lot of the restrictions of that because they have 9 starting CP. They're not too pressed on buying portraits and relics pre-game. You'll maybe spend an extra detachment that you don't mind having. Necrons don't have to run a lot of troops because they have eternally expansionists and relentless conquerors to give them a pre-game move and objective secured across the entire army, or almost entire army, which means that they're not as hamstrung by playing something like Patrol Outrider or Vanguard Outrider. I've seen, which is a psychotic choice that I massively approve of. Supreme Command Outrider Vanguard is a power move on the roster that I can only approve of.
Yeah, I love it.
And then their secondaries are gassed out of their mind. They have probably 4 of, if you had to pick 4 secondaries, like 1 per category, you would probably pick like 3 Necron ones for like any codex and 1 other that maybe wouldn't pick Code of Combat. So Heart the Prey, or now Purge of Armor, I suppose it's actually called for Necrons, is every table quarter you get 1 point, and then the deployment zone is an additional point, and that's every turn from turn 1 onwards. Treasure of the Aeons is your opponent picks 3 objectives that aren't ones in that player's deployment zone, and you get 2, 3, or 5 points for holding those ones. In most missions, that's almost guaranteed 2 points a turn. There's 5 turns, that gets you 15.
I would just like to shout out holding objectives for being a no mercy, no respite category and not a battlefield supremacy one.
Yeah, that too. Then they have Ancient Machineries, which is an action which they can do with their OBSEC stuff that moves 16 inches and pre-game moves 6 inches, which gets 4 points per objective they do it on. It's almost guaranteed 12 in most missions. It can be a little tricky getting it in a couple, like Recover the Relics is not super easy because you do have to control the objective. And Necrons is still not amazing in primary because, yes, they get lots of OBSEC, but it's all with itty-bitty 1 and 2, like 2 to 3 model units usually, which do suffer from, there's 5 dudes stood on this, I can't hold this.
It's also easy to just blast them into dust.
Yeah, that being the other problem with primary. So Necron's primary game is still not amazing unless you just let them kill you for 5 turns. Alex, I said if you hold 2 objectives, you get 3 points. Come on, keep up, please. I know you're from New Zealand, but that's not an excuse for having developmental disorders.
Got him.
Whoa.
Whoa. It's just Alex, not all of New Zealand.
Yeah.
Just Alex, we know that math is hard. That's why we're having to teach Anthony math. It's really hard, though, I think, to be an engineering student and not be able to do math, just putting it out there.
Oh, and then they have their last one, which is Code of Combat, which is Nobles Kill Things.
Which is the Silent King explodes and gets 9.
Oh, it was so sad. I rolled a 5 on mortal wounds and almost killed Dante. I was so close.
Don't. Just stop. Enough. What the hell?
Yeah, Silent King, known for being really hard to kill in combat with his fight last aura, is genuinely terrifying. Angel Sacrifice doesn't care so much, but
yeah, that's true.
Yeah, and then you have things like 1 CP auto explode for the Silent King. So if you do kill him in combat, which a lot of armies do focus on combat these days because it's quite good on heavy terrain, he just blows up for D6 mortal wounds and 2d6 range. He's a knight that auto explodes for 1 CP. He's got good shooting, he's got good punch. So Code of Combat is a very reliable secondary for him. And that kind of whole holistic package combines to Necrons are not the killiest army and they're not the shootiest army, but they're good enough at both. Or they're not the tankiest army, they're not the shootiest army. They're not the best at primary, but they are probably the best at secondaries. And all of that package combined says that they're not really bad at anything. You've got Catan powers which help get you off the line against things like indirect. Basically, Sky Falling Stars basically functions as indirect against a lot of armies in the game right now.
Dude, 2 Sky Falling Stars a turn against Sisters is brutal.
Sisters, Eldar, Blood Angels, none of the armies love it.
Yeah.
Silent King Explosion no longer counts for the secondary. That's good to know. So
that is good to know. I didn't know that.
I think it might have been changed to 3 VP for shooting and 4 for combat now instead of just 3 per kill.
Oh, that's way less annoying because God, I hated that more than anything.
So thank you for that, Robert. So yeah, Necrons just very holistically got brought up on almost every category you could want to be brought up on as an army. So I would have been very surprised if they hadn't started doing well. It's probably a little bit of a surprise how much they are doing well for some people. Certainly, I wasn't expecting it to be quite as high as it was because it definitely feels like you can still run them over. They're still a fairly fragile army.
I think
but
that's our
if you're trying to play them on secondaries, you're going to lose. Is the broad strokes.
I think that's our big murder privilege coming in there in us. Our willingness to just be like, yeah, you do have better secondaries than me. Anyway.
Well, Tyranids say that about every faction, essentially. Like, you have better secondaries than me. I better murder you.
Yeah.
But a lot of the players that were playing the non-interactive armies now have to be aggressive, and their nature doesn't lend to that.
Yeah.
There are very few non-interactive armies now, too, basically. A lot. Well, other than Sisters, who can play like a little bit of it uninteractive, but have to melee trade still to do some stuff.
Yeah, they have a really rough time into the Necrons, though, who are like, I have equally good secondaries, and these two things that used to be gods. What's up?
Yeah.
Yeah, that stuff is real problematic. I haven't had a ton of issues in that matchup yet with the CSM stuff that I'm doing, but I've only played the double Ctan't thing once, and I was able to just truck through everything else, and it was okay. And then I eventually just stuck Abaddon into one of them, and they played high 5 game until Abaddon killed him. So you can get there. It's not pretty.
High 5 game, really?
Yeah. They just stand in melee and
the slap fight.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like when you get Rippers and you have drones and they fight each other until one of them.
Oh yeah,
dies.
No. Rippers always lose that fight because Rippers lose one and then start disappearing to morale.
Not wrong. Somebody asked about craft-rolled Eldar win rates, and I guess I can just pull that up real quick.
Yes, check out stat-check.com/the-meta.
Nathan, what's the representation for CSM? I'm curious.
For CSM, it actually jumped up a lot this weekend. Let me switch this over to the other thing.
People have finished rebasing their possessed at last now.
Yeah,
it's actually so there were 5 the first weekend that the Chaos Codex was available, and now it's at 7%.
Okay. That's pretty good.
This last weekend. So they
pretty reasonable.
jumped up a lot.
How many armies do we track? Like 14 or something like that?
I mean, I squish all the Marines together for over-rep ratio purposes, which gives me really funny things like Marines at a 0.19 over-rep ratio. I personally just enjoy that a lot. And if you watch my interview with Innes, you'll learn why I love that a lot. But on the meta dashboard, we expand all of that out. So we track every Marine faction individually on the meta dashboard. I do not track them individually for the purposes of overrepresentation ratio because it gets super muddled. And you have a lot of factions that are sub 10 players per weekend at that point, and those numbers mean a lot less at that point.
So by the rough check, there's like 19 to 20 factions. So you'd expect every faction in Eco World to be at about 5%, but Marines eat up three factions worth of factions. So
makes sense.
Yeah, you'd expect about 6% on an average army, with Marines cannibalizing the rest. Chaos Space Marines at 7. It's a good sign. Good sign they're doing pretty well.
They definitely bounced back, and they definitely did a lot better this weekend. Since that first weekend, they also did abysmally, and this weekend they had 8 top 10s, 3 top 4s, and Anthony winning a GT that we tracked. So there you go.
I'm doing wonders for a CRS.
That's right, baby.
It
More
did.
importantly,
Oh, wow. Actually, thank you, Innes, for reminding me that I wanted to talk about changes to our CRS rankings this week.
You want to hit the Elo one, too?
Yeah, we're going to do both.
Yeah.
So we're going to start with the pure Elo because it makes me amused. So pure Elo, and then we'll talk about our faction weighted one. So in pure Elo, Anthony Vanilla, who some of you may know as a person who's on this podcast, is number 1 at 1,923.
Exclusively off the back of beating up on TJ twice in a row. Because
And
TJ
Sam.
stuck like a stone.
Yeah, just
And then Manny Chima's in second at 1922, so 1 point behind Anthony. David Gaylord is in third at 1902. Innes is in fourth at 1849. And then Nathaniel Bjorg, whose name is in all caps, is in fifth at 1835.
if you've seen that guy's armies, it's an all caps army too. All his armies are chrome plus color. It is eyeball, like you are aware where that man's army is.
Very reflective.
Yeah.
And then if we pop over to CRS, which is our faction weighted ranking system,
Lame.
Innes is no longer in first place. He's been replaced by Tom Ogden. Innes
snap.
is now in second place with 1883. Ogden has replaced him by 1 point at 1884.
Snap.
So what happens when I take like a month off to practice for WTC? It's so unfair.
Yeah.
And then Manny Chima's in third at 1876. David Gaylord is in fourth at 1819. And then Vic Vijay is in fifth at 1817. TJ Lanigan is actually in sixth on this one at 1809. And then I know Anthony's in here. Oh, there he is. He's in ninth place at 1760. There's some other people.
My average
Kyle
across the two is
Grundy,
still
Mark
third. I'll
Peterson.
take it.
The stain of Nids and Harlequins on my CRS score is really screwing with me.
Well, it doesn't hurt Innes, who's 43 and 3.
Yeah, he's way better than me though. He won a whole bunch more. I need my faction scores to go away so that I can.
I
go
know
back
the
to
nice thing. What's your I don't know if you'll know this off the top, but what's your average across these two and ITC, Anthony? Do you know like what your average placing is?
I'm sixth in the ITC right now, I think.
So
so-
first, sixth, and ninth.
Yeah.
So 16. So 5.3. Math is hard.
I think
Yes,
that's right.
you actually did that correct and quickly. Good job.
Yeah. I've
That's why
got
he doesn't get the math
second,
lessons.
fourth, and fourth. So 3.3 average. We'll take that.
That's pretty
There
good.
you go. Just you're third in the world on average. That's
No,
okay.
slightly worse than third.
Yeah.
We're gonna say third because there's no third place.
Yeah, we won't look at mine.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm in like the 1600s, so don't.
I'm sorry. When we do the WTC draft, we're organizing it by ranking score of some kind. So
It's
What are
probably
you gonna do?
it's probably Mir
well, for
Cliff.
seating order, right?
It's gonna be Mir
Oh.
Cliff, and then probably Curie, and then Anthony, and then UNS.
Yeah,
Like,
that sounds right.
that's
It's
why
a
we're doing it that
it's
way.
pretty easy to organize it by rank. It's
Yeah,
not
It's because
hard.
Anthony had it for the LVO draft we did. So
I did. I was the champion of the LVO draft because a bunch of you guys didn't know all the East Coast killers that went out there and got like 23rd and 17th.
At least for the WTC, it's just countries, and it's a little bit easier to parse who is good and who isn't. There's a lot less players than there.
That's true.
There's a lot less countries than there are players in the LVO. Yeah, we can touch on it some more at the end. But yeah, so that's the CRS. Whenever it changes dramatically, or if Innes drops or takes first place again, I will continue to report on changes.
Sorry, Anthony can watch me replace him in real time at the singles at WTC.
Oh, it's gonna be so sad. I'm gonna be doing my best to get Innes just slaughter hammered, like just crushed. Can't
Brad
speak.
Chester hammered.
Yeah, like worse. Like we're gonna go. Like shout out to the goat, Brad Chester. By the way, love that guy. Yeah. I'm gonna do my level best to get Innes like can't stand at the table hammered, and we'll see if we can crush his War Master dreams.
I really hope Anthony and I end up liking each other in person because this is gonna be really awkward.
If not.
I will say that Anthony is very pleasant in person.
Aw, thanks. I do
I will
my
agree with
best.
that.
I try.
I don't know if you guys are trolling me now. That's the problem.
No,
We've said the rest-
I have very positive.
I
opinions of
loaned
Anthony.
him and one of his buddies a ton of Tyranids for ACO, and I'm like, I don't know about this. Like, giving my my well painted nids a little bit, to people. And number one, they took good care of them, and they were very thankful with drinks, so it helped out.
Yep. We always repay in alcohol. We do our best. I was Nathan's healthcare advocate for a weekend.
Yes, it was Anthony and Fox who were my healthcare advocates for an entire weekend and delivered food, drinks,
And
and
edibles.
like supplies and edibles to keep me from like losing my mind while I was in a small bedroom of an Airbnb and
Yep.
occasionally sitting sadly at a riverside with COVID. Those
Yep.
helped a lot.
That's true. It was a wild weekend.
It definitely was wild. Yeah,
Definitely sounds like a
was
40K
wild.
weekend. It really.
Yeah, it was
does.
big 40K weekend energy.
If you want
But,
to hear more about Nathan's big 40K weekend energy, you could check out the bonus content.
That's
Oh,
true.
God. Yeah, I do talk about it in our bonus.
Yeah,
Why don't you
okay,
talk about that right now?
I'll do the plug now because we're almost an hour into the show. So
for
this
it.
is our podcast, 40K Stat. No, just Stat Check. We're not called 40K Stat Check. We do this for free. We put out this 90-minute podcast once a week, every week on Tuesdays at the times we said at the start of the episode. I'm not reiterating. Don't make me do it because I will forget them every time. However, paying for stuff like the Tableau is not free. And for that end, we have the Patreon, which is patreon.com/statcheck. There, for $5 a month, you can get access to all of the bonus content we create, or almost all of the bonus content, I guess, because you guys added tiers. You can get access to all of the bonus content we create that is for the normal consumption, and then you can also get access to the Discord, where you can do things like ask us questions and not have to make the live show to ask us questions. So if you'd like to support us, that is the place you can do that. As of now, we have released one piece of bonus content, which was an interview with Nathan, which to find the name of, you'll have to join the Discord or sign up because the name is funny and I'm not giving you free stuff. However, there will be a limited release of some of the bonus content, some of the things that we're prouder of, some of the things we want to get a little wider spread will come out a week or two after for general release for everybody. So if you don't, you can't afford it, or you are supporting other things in this 4K scene, which we wholly support, then there will be ways to get access to some of the better stuff, the content. So we will probably release Nathan's interview in a week or two so that everybody can see it. Because it helps with guests. And we're just going to say that one straight up. If we put it out for everybody, eventually, guests are more likely to be willing to come on and do it with us because it's not they can share it with their audience then, and that's quite good. So trying to be business headed on that one, it's good for us as well. But if you want early access to that content and you want to see more of it, if you want to see our WTC draft, so we're going to be doing a fantasy draft of the WTC with the three of us, Nathan, Anthony, and myself, and also Curie and Cliff, and we'll be doing a fantasy draft. We've got some extra little bonus prizes to hand out, and I will hopefully, if I can get the architecture sorted, I will be releasing a version of it that anybody can take part in as well, so that we can have a Discord battle royale for best WTC draft, so that we can make it a little bit of an event. That's my plug. If you enjoyed us and you want more of us, you can get more of us. That's the long and short of it, and we hope you are enjoying it. Or
you can also support such mad content as me teaching Anthony how to do mathematics.
It's true.
And future content that will also be at that tier as we rotate.
Yeah, I still can't believe that's a thing that exists and that people are paying for.
Dude, people love that, by the way. Yeah. The most instant support I've ever gotten in my life was for me to learn math. Everyone was like, this guy needs help.
I think people heard you just like one too many times get frightened by an Excel sheet or basic like addition and subtraction that they just decided that you needed some assistance. So after Anthony gets back from the WTC, so that supporters of that tier are aware, we will start at math lessons with Anthony that all of the Discord Patreons will be able to access.
Yep. You can watch me suffer. That's true.
Yep.
Also, for those of you that are interested in that type of thing, one of the bonus content things that I'm going to do might be after WTC, might be before, I'm not sure yet, is I'm going to do like a thing with Sam Precipio where we sit and talk about Blood Angels for a little while, because people seem to want information about Blood Angels that isn't like just Sam or like just this. So it's going to be the two of us together, because we play the army super differently and we come to a lot of the same conclusions, but how we get there is really different.
Speaking of Blood Angels, do you want to talk about your experiences with the English Blood Angels list a little bit?
Yeah, so I played Sam twice this weekend, and then I spent some time like really trying to break down and go through what the deal with Josh Roberts' list was, because I was like, Josh Roberts is super good. There's no way he's playing garbage, right? That's just like flatly not possible. It might be niche, but it's not going to be bad. So what I did was I took some time and I went through like, what is this list? I like went over the list itself. It's a bunch of Death Company units, essentially, way more than you would normally take. I think there's a strong argument for this to become the default Blood Angels build going forward. It maintains Abhor the Witch, which is one of my favorite things about it. And it didn't welch out and go for the easy money psychic secondaries. So basically, one of the issues that you have in Blood Angels right now is that when someone puts a unit in a transport, you lose. So what this does instead is it's on the spot, by the way. Like, they put the unit in the transport in the declare reserve step, and you have to concede out of respect. So the way to get around that, because normally what you end up doing is you end up in this really weird space where you spend like a 180 point unit to kill like a 60 point transport. You want to tear your eyes out of your skull. So what happens instead is that your ever powerful Death Company rock up to the transport. They whip out their 5 Inferno pistols and they blow it away. And then the dudes charge the stuff that was in the transport and kill it, netting you 4 points on the spot and a 5th point when that Death Company unit inevitably gets shredded. Kill a thing, score 3 points is super powerful as a secondary and changes the dynamic of that matchup from being I throw my unit away, get nothing except your transport dead, and then my unit dies, to I throw this unit away, I literally get a point when it dies, and then between either the shooting or the charging, if needed both, who cares, it gets me 4 points. So it's real good. Only thing that I've changed, and I'll talk about this a little bit when I talk to Sam, is I've adjusted it for like my own play, because after playing Sam this weekend, I was super impressed by the Las Fusel Eliminators. They basically take Eldar bullshit and put it in Blood Angels, and that is A, not okay, and B, hilarious. The unit just like stepping out, shooting you, and then being like, bye, with flat 3 damage shots is rough. I lost a whole possessed unit to them the second time we played turn 1. It was like, it's only 6 shots total, but that was enough, and I lost all of them. As it turns out, 8-3-3 is a pretty good profile. But yeah, that list with those changes is really, really good at shoring up what is otherwise a fairly major weakness of Blood Angels, and gives them a really consistent secondary in the No Mercy, No Respite category, where otherwise you have people trying to build for, I'm going to be a little bit mean, garbage like Death from Above. And that secondary sucks. Don't do that. So, yeah.
So that's a little taster of Blood Angels chat with Anthony and Sam. So if you want to hear more of that, refer to my previous section.
Yeah, or ask me questions about it very quickly right now in the Patreon Discord, and I'll get to them on this episode.
Yeah, because we're going to jump onto questions in about 5 minutes.
Yep.
Okay, is there anything else we want to touch on meta-wise? WC lists are all out and post corrections. There is a link on Reddit, I believe, or you can check them out on BCP, where the event is sponsored. So if you want to check out all of the lists from WTC, they're there. You should go and do it, because if you want to see what the meta is going to be shaped by for a few months after this, WTC is probably a good place to start, because a lot of the innovation is coming out for this event. And there are some wild bullshit in there that people are very much sleeping on. There's so many Magnuses.
Yeah, which I don't know about that one, but
me neither. But they're there.
Yeah, they are. They sure are present.
And there are good players who are having to play Death Guard. So there are whatever the very best version of Death Guard is going to look like for a while. It's probably in there somewhere.
There was we were doing the pairings matrix, and like one of the I think the way the rounds work out is that when the round we play a team with Death Guards on the Scouring, and I was like, I don't really know what that man does about the NIDS list as I have it constructed. Like, the double Zoans float up to a Death Guard army, and they're like, sorry, bro.
There's also an African Sisters list with the Triumph in it, and just like a bunch of nonsense. I think that's actually, I think that's Lennon's list, actually. Is he the one who brought Sisters for America? I thought it was the American Sisters.
No, Harpster has it.
No,
that's not the Triumph.
Grant has it.
No, Grant, sorry.
We have no Triumph.
Yeah. Okay. Nobody can read Grant's list, so.
It's fixed now, I think.
I know it's fixed now, but.
It was full of BCP nonsense before.
So. We have the Spanish title list, which is the 15 crisis suits with max plasma and Sika Conflict in Data Scry Salvage. And it's like, oh no.
Yeah, that's rough.
Do not want to go first against this.
Yeah, I was looking at the title list in like our pod the other day, and there was like one of them where it was like a bunch of suits, and I like looked at the list and I was like, it's like 4 plasma rifles total. What happened here?
Points.
then you read
changes
some of them, and
happen
it's like,
then.
oh, this has 3 hammerheads and 2 of the Sunshark bombers. I don't like that.
Yeah, no one's happy about fighting that. That's not a game that's not Smokey won.
That's
Those Sunsharks
the
are terrifying, by the way.
Yeah, they are made of paper and glass, but
Who cares?
if you've popped out of cover and are in line of sight, you are going to die list.
Well, you don't have
The
to pop out of
hammerheads.
cover. But yeah, the Sunsharks will come get you.
The Sunsharks will come get you, but the hammerheads will cover every lane that is available.
That's true.
I mean, to be fair, they're only 40 points cheaper than They're 40 points cheaper than Harpies, and I'd take a Harpy every day of the week. But
You're not wrong.
They're not 40. They're 40 points cheaper than like a non-upgraded Harpy.
yeah, no, like a non-synapse or what the other thing. Yeah, but I mean, those are bonus upsides. Like,
Are they, or are they auto-include when you take Harpies? Be honest with me.
I don't have to be honest with you.
Okay.
The synapse does feel mandatory on one of them.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, 100%.
Even I can notice that.
Good job, Nathan.
Is the 10-point upgrade that gives me transhuman and all my auras good? Asking for a friend.
Hmm.
Maybe.
All right, is it questions time?
It's questions
think so.
time.
Is there any interesting ones in chat before I have to grab my phone?
Let's do a scroll.
Seth says, once Anthony learns math, he can play solitaire like a real R4 member. It's not really a question, but...
It felt right to repeat it, though, for Anthony to see it.
Right, it looks like we're okay on questions from the chat.
I mean, it was
So-
painful watching him a couple times make saves, going, all right, I have Armor of Contempt, I'm in cover, and then his eyes rolled for a second, and you were like, all right, he's doing math. I can smell smoke.
Yeah, it's not good. It's not good. I hate having to do that. Every time I'm like, oh,
So
Christ.
I have a very broad general question. Just when you play against Armor of Contempt nowadays, do you tell your opponent the AP before or after Armor of Contempt and have to clarify every time?
Oh no, I just tell them the AP and then I wait and then I double check them.
That seems fair.
The my aberration of math that I forgot to tell you about. All right, kids, strap in. So I, in my hubris, charge 10 Plague Marines with all 10 of my buffed Terminators. Black Rune, Transhitman, no rerolls. Easy money. I'll fight second. No big deal, right? Math says I lose 2, 3, maybe 4 if shit gets crazy. My opponent uses the damage carryover strat. I'm like, that's fine. That makes sense. You know, he's got a lot of CP. It's turn 4. He hasn't left his deployment objective. So, like, you know, game's not really in doubt. Everything's going to be fine, but we'll see how it goes. A man rolls the flails. He's like, take 8 saves. And I'm like, no big deal. Things like AP2 or whatever. Who cares? Roll my saves. 8. Or I think it was 7. Ones and twos. And I was like, oh, that's a bad start. So we get over to the Mesas. Now, for those of you that are not familiar with the Plague Marine Mesas, they're AP 1, damage 3. Same thing, right? No big deal. It's going to be fine. Roll 6 attacks, 4 saves. Okay, 4 ones. Good. Strong. Lots of people are dead at this point. Get down. I've got 3 Terminators left by the end of this. He's got 4, maybe 6 swings with that big stupid cleaver. I'm like, all right, no big deal. Same thing, not super high AP. He rolls to hit, rolls to wound, take 2 saves. And I'm like, easy. I failed every save to this point. Surely I pass one of these. No, fail both. Now, he rolls the first dice for damage. 6. Flatlines 2 of them. And I'm like, no big deal. I still got the leader. He's got 3 wounds. He can't do that again. Guess what? Sure could. Flatline the entire 10 brick from full health to 0 with 1 Plague Marine squad and 2 command points.
That is some powerful energy. I vastly approve it. Especially when you
I
consider,
love
like,
that so
there's a bunch of lists running like 45 of those things. There's so much spike potential there.
The average there, like I said, I think it's like 3, maybe 4. All of them was like, what? What even? Huh?
They don't have like the putrefier for the mortal wounds on anything on top of that? Or?
No, just unit swinging. Like,
Yeah, that's pretty brutal. I'll give you that one.
It was bad, dude. It was really bad. I was like, what?
Good. I'm glad you had to suffer
Perfection.
that. I'm glad there was a Death Guard player that at least made you think a little bit.
Yeah.
No, you thought this is bad. I'm losing models. I shouldn't be losing models in this matchup.
Yes, there you go. You got there. He was super nice though. That was one of my favorite games of the weekend. That was Zach Prinslow. He was awesome. We had a grand old time. We were laughing so hard when that happened. Every time one of those save dice would hit the table as a 1, we would lose it because it was like, again? Yeah. There was 2 games at this tournament where my Terminators were like, nah, boss, we're going to take this game off. One of them was round 1 against Iron Hands, where I lost 8 of them to a drop pod with no buffs. Like, just an Iron Hands drop pod shooting into trans Hitman no reroll Terminators in cover. Just lost 8. I was like, oh, okay. We don't need those.
That's some Nassim math, that is.
Yeah, it is.
That is, you have been blessed by the original Iron Hands. Do not pass go, do not collect $200.
Anthony, you need to take those dice out back and just get rid of them. Just
They're the
bury
Art of
them
War
in
dice. I
a
was giving
shallow
them away all
grave.
weekend.
Well, hopefully you gave away all the bad ones. That's some real cursed energy.
Yeah, it was.
You guys got
great.
Team America
Six
dice this
left
year.
on his table at the end of that Plague Marine game. Just saying.
Yeah. All right.
You guys got Team America dice sorted for this year.
Do I look like the person that would know that?
Yeah, you
Does this seem like a
had to pay
team?
money for them.
Oh, that didn't happen. So
There you go.
So, Innes, Anthony does not plan things.
I know.
Anthony lets other people plan things and just puts money in
Bro,
slot. to
Innes is
finish
experiencing
planning
that
things.
right now.
Anthony sent me his flight
Right
confirmation,
now.
but not the number of the flight or what time it arrived.
That's not true.
Yeah, it is. The confirmation you sent didn't have any of that detail.
Oh, I'll scroll up right now.
No, the one you sent me when I requested it had all that information on it.
Oh, so the one that I just slammed into the chat to be like, "Yay, I'm going."
nothing.
Wasn't
Nothing of the sort.
specific enough for you.
Yeah, exactly.
No, okay, my bad.
It just
Pardon
had
my
a day,
excitement
and I'm
that I
like,
got it done.
okay.
The good thing is, Innes, no matter what you plan, Anthony will just go with it.
Yeah,
I
I know.
know. I've basically
Anthony
figured
will
he's like a puppy. Yeah.
He is. You walk him where he needs to go, and that's it. He just goes, and he's happy the whole fucking time.
Yeah, I'm not gonna ask you any questions. I'll just be like, "You got a boss."
No critical thinking. Only he's not gonna eat the fish and chips. That's what we figured out.
Yeah, only obedience. That's what I'm great for. I'm really good in like a team format or at work. Like you can be like, Anthony will do that task that I told him to do. He's really bad at looking busy once he's done, but that task is getting done.
Questions from chat.
Sometime today, Innes. God.
Okay. Can you guys go over Chaos Legion tiers? Where do Word Bearers and Black Legion fit into that, and how do they play, and what units are good? Can I direct you to the Art of War tier list?
No, you can't.
No.
So if you give me 1 second, I can grab the Art of
I'm
War.
going to give you a real answer to this.
Black Legion are top tier competitive staples, best in the game. Run Harkin and Raptors.
Just
Word Bearers.
All right, I got them. All right, so he can change that himself. He's gonna walk away for a minute. All right, so anyway, in general, that was great. I'm very happy that I did that and that it works, because the funniest part about that is that like I don't have like special admin thing going on right now. He could just hit unmute. He would have been fine. So at the top, at the upper level, is some combination of Emperor's Children, Iron Warriors, Creation's Bile, and Word Bearers, I think. Past that point, you get a bunch of the rest. Honestly, past that point, it's like the rest. It doesn't super matter, I don't think. Like Black Legion's probably slightly better than like Alpha Legion, sure, but whatever. After a certain like power level, you're just not playing the straight line power stuff. There's like some level of like you can play Black Legion with a Master of Possession and just heal Abaddon, and Knight armies are like, all right, I guess I lose. Like that stuff exists, but if you want like the most powerful, like cohesive game plan and army list, it is Emperor's Children, Iron Warriors, Creation's Bile, and Word Bearers. different units are good in different ones, but possessed are good in all of them. You can make hilarious possessed bricks in each of them. The ability for Emperor's Children to take a possessed brick that's T6 with -1 to wound and give it a feel no pain is hilarious. Iron Warriors can make theirs -1 damage and turn off your wound rolls. Word Bearers is obviously terrifying offensively, and Creations of Bile One fights on death and is faster and stronger. So they all have different things that make them super good. It's just a matter of how you want to build it out. I think no matter which way you build a CSM army, it's almost always going to be melee focused. I think as shooty as you can get is probably Emperor's Children or maybe Iron Warriors. Past that, everything else is just like big melee time. Word Bearers and Creations have the most consistent secondary game plans, and that's like broadly the breakdown as far as CSM Legions go. I'm going to unmute Ennis now, so he'll sit back down, or maybe he won't. Who knows?
He might just loom in the doorway forever. Oh, nope, he's back. He's come back.
He took his cue.
He took his cue by staring at the microphone that he could have removed at any time that he wanted to.
Yeah.
I really stopped looking happy, so I figured I could come back.
Yeah, there you go.
That was also a good cue. But did you know that you can unmute yourself when Anthony mutes you?
Mm-hmm.
He knows because he did it the first time I did it to him back in like episode, ye olden times.
20 minutes ago, yeah.
Back in episode ye olden times.
All right, what's the next one?
I don't know. I wasn't here. I don't even know if you've answered that one satisfactorily.
I did. That one was good.
Remember, hearken.
No, God, I'll tab back in. I'll do it.
Okay. My phone just jumped to the end. What are your thoughts on Black Legion Flavor rubrics jumping with the Veil plus Vets and Abaddon rerolls?
Legitimately, not that bad, but not worth that level of investment. It's like a lot of steps to get like a solid Flamer Bomb. It will do a bunch of damage. It's way better than whatever the hell Thousand Suns do with theirs. But it's
if
still
they get the icon keyword, so they go to AP3,
they do.
Talk to me again.
No, they do.
No, they don't get the icon keyword. They get icons because Icon of Flames in the Thousand Suns Codex don't give you the icon keyword, and they use that data sheet.
Keyword. Gotcha.
Yeah. So they don't have the icon keyword at the moment, so they don't benefit from the Marcus Inch on that, so they don't get the AP3 currently. If that changes, talk to me again.
They become much. I thought they had it, and even then, I was like, they're good, but they're not insane. But yeah.
Without it, I'm not sold. I think you will hit a lot of chaff with that, unfortunately. And it's not worth holding in reserve for like 3-4 turns to hold in backfield. It's very expensive for that.
I think it's not bad, like out of a Rhino, like advanced work time go, but like, and that's like a list that like a set of tools that's like broadly applicable, right? Like a Rhino isn't bad.
Yeah, because they can take warp time themselves because they get access.
Oh yeah, they totally could. So they can
whereas
just
the Legionnaires don't.
Yeah. So like that's not it's not bad. The only problem, obviously, out of a Rhino is you don't get the Abaddon buff. But like aside from that, it's mostly fine.
But you get the Abaddon Oath of Moment buff or whatever, the Seal of Oath.
The Seal of Oath.
Warlord trait. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So there's definitely ways and means.
Yeah, it's not bad. It's just not insane. Also, any Legion pretty much can do that again.
Then we have a question from somebody who unfortunately didn't know that the Leviathan supplement is gone. So we're going to just move past this one.
Could you imagine if it wasn't, though?
Yeah, remember that time we were like, it might stick around. It might stick around.
Do you remember that brief window? Do you remember Godfucker? The good old-fashioned, the one that never was?
Good old-fashioned 85 mortal wounds.
What almost was.
I played one game with
That's how many I played with it. I played one game and I was like, this is not fair.
No, it isn't. It's not okay.
For context, everybody, Godfucker was a build of the Hive Tyrant when you could utilize Leviathan and Crusher Stampede and the new Tyranny Codex. And you could have like quadruple exploding sixes with 5 plus 3d3 attacks.
Dude, it was madness.
9 mortal wounds on the charge. And
that brief
to be fair, though, every time I play against Mark and the Comparable Hunter and Colonel's Bow, I'm like, why did they have to take crushing breaking through away from me? That thing's so much better than that ever was.
Do you remember that brief window of time where we weren't like, there was no whatever the version of the leak that was like publicly available was, didn't have the Hive Tyrant limiting rule, and we were like, yo,
I'm gonna run 7.
Know. Yeah, like
yeah, 7 and like 1 squad of Tyrant Guard in front of them. It's like, this is all I need. I don't need anything else.
Yeah, why would I ever do anything else?
I'll play Army Wide OBSEC and they'll all be OBSEC.
Oh yeah, right.
Good times. Not really, but
they
were definitely times.
Yeah.
Lots of discussion. That's the bad thing about having an active community is people start discussing around our questions. What makes you stay with a list or faction when it gets nerfed or a newer or shinier book comes out?
Familiarity of play.
Familiarity of play is a good answer. Normally it depends on. So for a little while there, Drukhari got like nerfed, and then Thick City was around, and then while Thick City was around, Town Custodes came out, and I really didn't want to play Tower Custodes. I briefly considered playing Custodes, but I tried them once and was like, I just didn't like the new shiny thing like at all. In fairness, them and Guard are probably the only things that I just flat wouldn't play. Maybe like 2 of the Demon God allegiances, like if Tzeentch or Nurgle are good, I'm not going to care about that book either. But like, it just happened to hit in such a time where like my army was viable enough, and then I just didn't care that much. But yeah, I stuck with Drukhari through obviously the entire time that they were good, even though I'm pretty sure Admech was better. And then
still like a 57% win rate, buddy. Like,
yeah, they're still super high. Like so it was easy to stay with them because they were good. I think CSM will be one that I ride with for quite a while, unless Corn Demons very specifically come out and are absolutely bananas. Then I'll have a hard time not switching. But past that, I'll probably be fine.
Are you concluding World Eaters as the same thing as Chaos Space Marines there?
Sorta, kinda. I don't actually foresee them doing World Eaters as better than the Slanesh options for melee armies. I think they're going to do what they've always done, which is where Slanesh gets to be the melee army and Khorne is perils take Psychers take perils on rolls of an 88 on the 8th day of the 8th month. So,
but if Khorne Demons are broken, World Eaters might get 25% extra on top of that.
And then they could be 25% closer to being good.
Dang.
But yeah, until then.
It's just hobby stuff for me. Like, if I don't want to hobby an army, I won't switch to it. Like, there's way too much time that I invest into, like, building and painting minis to, like, build and paint an army that I don't like the way that it looks aesthetically.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So, Brian, with you having just kind of everything, how do you decide an army to play at a given time?
So I legitimately can look around my room and just go, what am I in the mood to play? What mood strikes me for what I want to do? I've got, Tau, every Marine army in the world sitting behind me, Knights. On the other side of the room, I've got fully painted Necrons, Orcs, Tyranids. I've got probably 30,000 points of painted Tyranids at this point, so I can kind of just go, oh, this is the thing, I'll just play it. 3 people can message me and go, man, we need Raveners to borrow for a thing. I'm like, how many do you need? Oh, 10. How many do you need? 9. I need 5. All right, here you guys go. But I admit to my problems that I'm crazy. I also get to buy at a large discount, so that helps a little bit. But I've also been playing for 30 years, so I have 30 years of accumulated models that kind of just keep going.
How long do you find you usually stick with an army if you're playing it, or is the call of new broken? So like when we went through that period where it was like we had Drukhari were really strong, and then Custodes and Tau were really strong immediately after, and then immediately after that it swapped over to Harlequins. Did you kind of stick with the one you'd bandwagoned onto, or did you just go with the flow?
I never bandwagoned onto anything at that point because Drukhari was so obnoxious that there was, in my opinion, unless you were playing Drukhari, you just were not playing the same game. So I just played what I felt like playing. I wasn't going at that point. I was like, I'm not winning the events because I don't want to play that army. I didn't like the style. It didn't fit what I enjoy doing. So I was like, I'm just going to go be a mid-table hero, have a good time. When I go and try and play seriously, I look at the meta and go, okay, which army in that play style fits what I enjoy doing? Like, I enjoy very much like Anthony. I like running up the board and smashing people in the face. I find it a ton of fun. It's what I really enjoy doing. So Nids have always drawn me to that because they do that a lot. Orcs, kind of the same thing. When they had their heyday at one point in time years ago, it was good fun to do. When they were the, lob bombs at you from behind buildings, it was boring. I didn't enjoy playing that. So I play what I enjoy. On the competitive side of things, I can smash, I can have a good time, but I a lot of times tend to play what I enjoy.
And are you making that decision sort of like on an event by event basis, or are you just going, are you kind of picking for a season, or is it just?
I go for an event by event basis. That's the nice part of the wealth of models that I have is that I can go event by event. If I ever decide to not run 8 billion events a year and play an 8 billion, then I'll probably pick one and just go strong into that for the entire season if I can.
Yeah, that's fair. Cool. I'll jump on my answer for that one quickly before we move on. I am kind of hamstrung by WC commitments, which is a very important thing for how I organize my tournament calendar. So I've been playing NIDS basically nonstop since March, like the start of March, February. Like I put a little bit of Gene Circle mixed in there, but basically I've been playing Tyranids for this entire season because they were the army that I am quote unquote playing for WTC, which ended up being the case, which was nice. It doesn't always end up being the way it goes. But I kind of, unless I have a very strong reason to move off of an army I'm playing, and that tends to be around, unless it's between sort of like the end of after WTC through to like the start of the year, then I tend to just play whatever I feel like at that time. It tends to be play what I'm playing and stick with it. It just has to be the way it is for the way that my season is organized. But like when we swing around to the season where I'm going from basically the stretch from after WTC to the start of LVO, I'll be playing whatever I think my best chance of winning is. I'm probably not going to buy a new army to compete unless it's like something I'm like expanding. Like if I want to take something I've got and add £200 or 300 whatever 1,000 points to it, that's fine. But I'm not going to like buy Necrons out of it unless I have a very compelling reason to. I will just jump between all the armies I have. I'm operating kind of the same as Brian, where I have 12 years of accumulated armies. I have 10 different armies I can jump between, so I will jump between them shamelessly and have absolutely no qualms about doing it.
Yeah. I'm starting to get there. I'm noticing, like, as the meta roll catches up to me, I'm like, oh, quite a few armies laying around now.
Yeah, that's where I'm starting to get to, and I used to like prune my collection periodically, and now I've got Guard, Sisters, a bunch of elf nonsense, and Tyranids at like 2,000 points or more, and that's just like so much stuff.
Yeah.
So can I flex for a half second?
Oh,
absolutely.
Yeah,
Go for it.
All right. So, like, if you'll notice,
oh boy.
So go from paint shelves to there's AdMech, there's other armies behind me. You go over there, that's like all Marines. There's tons of stuff. Gene Stealer cults, everything underneath the sun, chaos there. Tons of models. I've got unpainted orcs I got to get my butt working on. And then just massive amounts of Tyranids. And that's just in this game room. The other game room has more stuff. I also own, I don't know, like 50 tables worth of terrain.
Yes. So. Powerful.
Nice.
Yeah.
So I think my total, now bear in mind, in 3 months will be the 3rd year that I'm in the hobby. So I have Chaos now, Blood Angels, Harlequins, Tyranids, Chaos Knights, and Drukhari that are somewhat well rounded out. Drukhari is actually pretty easy to round out your collection on because it's like not that many units because Drukhari is like 3 tiny armies in a trench coat. It's not like one actual real army. And then Blood Angels I'll never have even close to all the units because Marines are a joke.
I've been playing Marines since the day I started, and I probably have less percentage complete of them than any other army I own.
Yeah, it's like not even a thing. I have a decent amount of NIDs, but same thing. I have like what was good when the 9th book came out. Chaos is getting there. Chaos is like a one step at a time thing. I'm also very slow to collect Chaos because I'm really good friends with TJ, and we like very different parts of Chaos. So like if Khorne Demons came out tomorrow but Tzeentch was also good, we could just both use his Demons collection because it doesn't really, there's no reason for me to own that. So
that leads on to one thing I'll recommend as an end cap to this. If you have friends that play and you're part of a team, just borrow their stuff. Just don't be a princess.
Oh, yeah.
Just borrow stuff. It's so much easier. You'll appreciate it. They'll appreciate it. The models will get the cobwebs off, which is an underrated thing that you might not have thought about. I pulled my Lord of Change out to Proximus the Silent King for some practice days, and yeah, dude had cobwebs between the wings. It's been a while.
Yeah.
So lend your models out and save yourself dusting.
Yeah. My discos were literally dusty when I pulled them off the shelf.
Okay. I don't even want to tell you how dusty this guy was when I pulled him off the shelf. Just to
wow, he's pretty.
Yeah, thanks. But like, somebody's like, "Oh, I need a Hive Tyrant with a Venom Cannon for an event," and I was like, "I've got one. They have them with wings." And I'm like, Okay, if you want to try them out, sure, here you go.
Yeah, what are you doing? All right.
You know, a portable shard gullet is not as terrible as you think.
All right, that's somewhat fair.
Pretty bad.
It's not good. It's just
It's just not terrible, right? That was the bar.
terrible. That's the bar.
What's the next
After
one?
the controversial judging calls of the weekend, do you think larger events need to have some kind of standardized training or qualification for their judges?
I'm gonna
Only-
let I think
Brian,
Brian.
that one,
Yeah,
Brian's
Brian
the
should
best
answer
one.
that. Brian, you were a
So-
super qualified Magic judge for a while, right? And they have a whole circuit
Right.
for that.
They have a level circuit for that. The nice part about that was that everything for them was written in stone. Everything for their books, everything they did, everything they put together, the game itself supported it, found all the answers, got the answers out quickly. And when stuff's bad, they ban cards, they remove cards, they restrict cards, whatever the case might be. Games Workshop doesn't really look at it in those terms and that standpoint. It would be nice if there was an independent organization that was overseen by, say, people like myself who have been judging for a long time, who have good qualifications, who all work together on a global standard to institute something. But at the same time, it'd be nice if GW had, like they used to have many, many years ago, someone on staff 24 hours a day with an instant chat who you could go, hey, we have a rules question. And that person be the qualified person to respond back, whoa, this is what the ruling should be. And if you had that where, you know there's going to be a major event and someone's there covering in the background, it would help immensely. Because there's times, and Anthony's been there when I've done this, where I've gone, all right, let me see all the books. I walk away for a second, I read everything, and then I walk back over and point and go, all right, here's the line, this is the rule, this is why. And most everybody respects that you took the time to actually research it, spend a few minutes. A lot of times I've noticed this from going to events and being a judge at events. Judges will make a snap ruling and you have to go, whoa, that's not right.
Right.
One of the judges at LVO made a terrible ruling in a Necron game. And I heard it from a couple tables away where I was doing a call. And I walked over and went, you're incorrect. And this judge is above me on the LVO circuit. And he was like, how? So I had to show him, explain it to him, walk him through it. And he was like, oh my God, I need to fix this right now. Luckily, the people had not advanced in the game yet. So he was able to adjust it and fix it right there. But sometimes judges have to put their egos aside. And that's a hard thing to do as someone who's a judge. I know it's hard to do. But you have to listen to the players too, where a player goes, well, this is the rule. This is what I think. The player goes, well, this is the rule. This is what I think. And you go, all right, let me read. Let me take both of your opinions into account and go over them. And sometimes they're both wrong. And you have to actually explain it out to them, explain to them sentence structure, things, and then go, here's the FAQ from Games Workshop. Here's the WTC FAQ. So in between these two, here's where we find the ruling. I use the WTC FAQ a lot. Now, granted, I've helped a little bit here and there with it, but I'm a big fan of it because it's a community-driven thing where a lot of people get together and rule on stuff. Do I agree with everything? Absolutely not. But it's nice to have some consistency to fall back on. That's my opinion.
Yeah, I liked when ITC and WTC and all that had codified FAQs, which had everything as living FAQs in 7th edition. I know 7th edition has a lot of issues, but the fact that the community drove a lot of the resources that we used was very beneficial in terms of keeping everything consistent. Even just stuff like the ITC Code of Conduct, I couldn't tell you, from running events myself, I couldn't tell you what the ITC Code of Conduct says, that the escalation procedure is on a single goddamn thing, because it doesn't have any FAQ versions in it, so I've never consulted it, because why would I? It's just, I can do punishments myself. What I need help with is, making sure things are consistent. And I think that a level of standardization to that could be a very good thing that we could definitely use.
Broadly, too, to touch on the first part of the question, I really would like to see a statement from FLG of some variant that explains what happened this weekend. That would be great. If they could do that, that'd be awesome, and I'd appreciate it. Because as of right now, it's a very odd scenario that we've ended up with, because we're not getting a clear stream of information regarding exactly what happened. And if they could put out something and clarify that, that would be much appreciated. From not even me, Anthony on StatCheck, or me, Anthony on Art of War, from me, Anthony, the player who is looking to attend their events, mostly just LVO at this point from the rest of the seasons. But I don't want to go to an event and have things go sideways and then not know what's going on.
Yeah, especially if it's because you've chosen to take an innovative list, you've got it cleared, and then you get the thing dumped on you. We don't want to run super in depth on what happened. There's
Right.
plenty of information out there because it kind of feels like piling on at this point.
That's the
But
problem, though. I don't want to pile on, but I would just like a clear statement of like, hey, this is what
So, I
happened.
mean-
This is what we're doing to correct it in the future. And that's all. Doesn't need to get
So
crazy.
here's the thing. Do you realize how many steps they have to go through to do that? Because all of us who do all of the events, all the judges,
Yeah.
are volunteers. No matter what anyone thinks, these are guys who volunteer their time away for a weekend to hang out with friends, have some fun, get a free room, and that's it.
Yeah.
Outside of that, you might get one free meal. Unless you work for me, that's a different story. But you get one free meal, and you're happy. You have a good time. You shoot the shit with everybody, and it's a fun time. These folks are human. This is not like myself. I have it as a full-time job. It's what I do. I'm paid by a store to know the rules, to do everything, to know everything. I go and help because that's what I enjoy doing. But this is a group of guys who made an error. If one of them, who's the one who made the thing, comes out and went, hey, we made a mistake. Sorry about that. We'll try not to let it happen again.
The problem with that is that this is that you're putting the power of volunteers in the hands that they do have absolute power over your weekend. Basically, the judges get a wrong call, and the guy who got the wrong call against lost out on the opportunity to win a super major.
And not even just that, right? I don't think that the volunteer dude that like the local judge that volunteered to run the thing,
it should be FLG putting it.
He shouldn't be like just face tanking the blame for that, right? There should be like, hey, if you're gonna do it in that manner, there should be some form of like head judge from like the FLG whatever that like makes the call on stuff like that.
Yeah, FLG should be codifying how their process allowed a mistake like this to be made.
And I don't disagree with you. Like when I judged ACO for the first year, Adam Solis came in and was there on staff in case there was an issue, right? And then I went and judged LVO, my second FLG event.
Right.
And I worked with Salty John and Adam and all of them. And when they got done, they were like, yeah, Brian, you caught us making mistakes. And I don't think you need to have anybody at ACO. But whenever I had to make at ACO, when I had to make a tough ruling, right, there was one that was a little difficult. I brought my judge crew together, not just myself. I brought the entire crew together, all 5 of us. We talked about it, came to a decision, and I was like, are we all comfortable with this? And then we were like, yeah, we're comfortable with it. All right, so why are we comfortable with it? X, Y, Z, everything added up. We could put it in black and white and put it down. I don't know the situation of what happened there. I don't know if it was one guy at a table who did this, and that's it. I wish that FLG and every other judge group did this, where you get all your crew together when it's something difficult, and you talk about it, and you resolve it amongst yourselves. And if you need someone, FLG, especially at their events, because that's their profession, that's what they do, should have somebody like Salty John, Adam Solis, or so on, to be there for a phone call or be there for a text message to give a reply within a few moments. You can always pause somebody's game clock, add a few minutes to a round. It's not the end of the world to get the ruling correct.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely agree. There should be some form of oversight. And again, just some form of, like, I would just like to see something from the company that runs the largest events that could be like, hey, this is what happened. This is what we're doing. That's it. And then it puts the whole thing to bed without any...
None of this is on the individual judge. That's one thing I want to specify.
Yeah, I want to...
The judge made a wrong call. Judges are going to make wrong calls. The fact that the judge was able to make the wrong call and have the impacts it did is the issue here. It's the power that was put in the judge's hands that was allowed to be improperly or misused or incorrectly used. I don't want to, again, make it sound like
using his power. Yeah, it was an accident.
Yeah, he got it wrong, and the fact that he got it wrong had too many consequences for the level of issue that it was, kind of thing.
So, coming from sports officiating, which I did like for pretty much my whole youth, like judges, officials, referees are going to make mistakes.
Yeah.
Some of those mistakes will cost games because that's just how some of those things end up working out. In 40K, because there are fewer like rulings that are made, rulings end up having like an enhanced effect. But I think part of the question here is about professionalization of judges. And unfortunately, I don't think you can expect like volunteer judges necessarily to follow some level of professionalization for the amount of compensation that they're receiving. And unless the community is willing to open their pocketbooks to pay judges to judge events,
Dude,
you can't expect like some of these hierarchical structures of standards and punishments and like responsibility to exist.
I mean,
and
one of the things in the Magic community that happened was there was a class action lawsuit against Wizards of the Coast to get compensation for their judges, because they would get, if you were a level 1 judge and you went to one of their majors or whatever they wanted to call it, qualifiers or something, and helped out, you got a box of cards. You got $100 for the weekend. You didn't get a free room. You didn't get put up. You got $100. I mean, it wasn't like you were getting amazing things, even from somebody that was a multi-billion-dollar company that Hasbro is. So it's tough. You have to rely on these volunteers, and myself being one, I don't mind doing it. I enjoy doing it. It's a ton of fun. Standardization would be nice if Games Workshop actually just sat down and went, these are the rules. These are the FAQs. And after they FAQ'd things and the community went, hey, you didn't cover all this stuff.
They did it again.
They did it again and started covering that stuff and listened to the community more. I mean,
they're getting better
there. They're on their way there. I think having Mike Brandt, Justin Cook, and a few other people in their fold will help it get there if they listen to those people. There's a lot of egos involved with rules and rules writing and rules design that you have to get past to make sure everything falls nicely.
And I do think like there could just be paid judges, but at some level of this, like it needs to be either beyond just Games Workshop being responsive and perhaps creating something to like assist with rulings for the tournament circuit. Frontline or another organization is just going to have to increase event costs and bring in paid judges and like set standards.
If you could point to and show me that like the extra X dollar, call up to as much as like $40 on these super major tickets, where all that money was going to go to the judges, I would pay it in a heartbeat.
Mm-hmm.
There
are a lot of people who would. Sure. And that's like a different thing, right? Like, people are going to have to put some risk and some cash for people to set this up. Like the investment can't come from nowhere, and nobody's going to make it.
Listen,
the one thing I can say is because I TO events, I run events, I coordinate events. Events don't make a shit ton of money when they're 100-person events. Just ran one. 2 game systems, had 100 people there. We made at the end of the day nothing. And I mean nothing. Now, did the sales from the store going on help that? Absolutely. But that's all it did, was it broke even, in all honesty. And that's not counting the 40 tables of terrain, 40 mats that we bought new for this event, brand new, because we wanted to try something out. And FLG manufactures their terrain, savings. They manufacture all their mats, savings. They get volunteers for everybody, savings. FLG probably makes a good penny on events. I'm not saying they make a gangbuster killing, but they probably make a good penny to where they could start setting up their team of X number of people.
It's not like they're adding terrain.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't want to get into that.
I do.
Look, as someone who volunteers for them and helps them, I really wish, and Anthony's heard me say this before, I'll say it all the time. At ACO, the first big event post-COVID, I went there and I was setting up the tables, and I'm a big fan of pre-laid out, pre-set out terrain, and I set up the terrain and I go, this fucking sucks. There was no other words out of my mouth.
What he said.
Terribles are fucking terrible. They're awful. The only one that's playable is the orc table, and this big fucking building is useless because all it does is get in the way because you can't get inside it. And they were like, what can we do to improve this? I was like, the easiest thing you can do is just let the players put it down themselves and say, fuck it, it's on you. And I didn't realize I was opening the can of worms I opened when I said that half-assed. So, and if everyone can yell at me for that one, because I put the idea out there and Reese was there, Kicker was there, and I was just like, oh. And then the next event they ran, player placed terrain, and I went, oh, fuck. My response was, I thought I was talking about we should add terrain and have some standardized tables. And they were like, yeah, but this saves us a lot of money. And I get that. It's a business.
No, I get it.
I do
but
think if you wanted to start it, you start it with a hotline thing for judging. Like, you just find 5 people. You don't have to fly them to all your events. Just have 5 people exist who can answer judging questions at a higher level, and that's it.
Hey, look, my name's Legion Brian Horton on Facebook. If you message me a question saying, hey, I'm a TO, and I have a difficult ruling and I can't figure it out, as long as I got my phone within earshot and I see it, I will respond to you as fast as I can.
I ask 40K Discords questions all the time when I don't know how to rule something, or if I'm not sure how to answer a rules question. Like, just ask. The worst thing you can do on Discord is like ask and nobody can reply to you real quick.
Yeah.
And
I
you
really-
need to take an extra 5 minutes.
Yeah, my frustration with the terrain at frontline events has definitely led me to going to less of them, specifically because they could just they could laser cut some MDF plates and be like, that's a GW setup now. Bang. And that would solve their problem overnight. But they just, nah, man. We got a system and it works. And that drives me nuts.
As someone who just put on a GT, who used the GW layout, and I went to every US place and went, how much for you to do this for me? And Anthony played on the tables, and I legitimately searched the internet. The people who make the WTC terrain were like, hey, we have a beta version of making the GW terrains. Would you like to try it out and then give us feedback? And I'm like, absolutely. What's the cheapest you can do it for? Because I'm a TO running a first-year event. They were like, 40 tables, pre-cut, shipped to you from Croatia, $5,000. And I went, that seems pretty cheap. They're pre-printed, pre-painted, technically, however you want to put it.
Yep.
All you got to do is cut windows out, shove them together, put them on a table.
Done.
Took me 2 days to cut out windows and a half a day to assemble them. 40 tables worth of terrain. I've gotten probably 30 messages in the last day and a half. Where can I buy that terrain? Where can I pick that up? Do you sell it at your store? Because it's nice and it's simple and it's easy.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's good stuff. I really enjoy using it.
Yeah.
Right. Can we quickly jump through the rapid fire of the last questions? Because I need to go to bed. Really
Oh,
sorry.
yeah, you have to go to sleep. Let's do that.
Cool. First one from Seth Allstar. They have several new Chaos themed terrain sets. This is Frontline. What's your opinion on the? I have not seen it, unfortunately. I don't
even believe that's real. I think he's just trolling you.
Yeah, I don't get Frontline Gaming's emails. I turned them off. There were too many. There were too many for these are pre-orders in a country you can't buy stuff from. So I turned off their emails.
Yeah, that seems not helpful.
Yeah, it wasn't great. Who's most excited for squats? I'm paraphrasing Chris's question.
I'm excited for him.
I'm
like
excited for more short fat guy representation.
I have metal trikes down there if it counts for anything.
Man,
that counts for more
Are they the
than-
ones wearing the old biker jackets and stuff like
Oh,
that?
hell yeah.
Oh, perfect. I love that. I
That
actually
is
like.
awesome.
I love the aesthetic of the minis that GW has released so far, except for the robot handyman. That's the only model who I kind of like raise my eyebrows at because the robot's wearing an apron full of tools.
That's
But it's
hilarious.
okay. It's fine.
Yeah.
It doesn't. Not everything has to be something I like, but I do like the aesthetic so far of kind of like a little bit of decoration, but mostly like just function that a lot of them have, and that appeals.
Which is the best faction-specific Facebook competitive group, and why is it CSM? It's none of them. None of them are good.
I'm not in any of them, and I'm
Engage
sure
with
they're all
them.
bad. Yeah.
All the faction anythings, Discords, Facebook groups, Reddits, they're all terrible, and the only thing they're good for is for looking at hobby stuff.
Yeah, their models are pretty.
That's the only thing you should go to those for, and that's it.
And collecting unbelievable memes.
Yes.
Memes are good. What mechanic from another tabletop game would you like to see in 40K?
The double turn from Sigmar.
No,
Go
Anthony,
to hell.
don't do that.
The double turn from Lord of the Rings.
Oh no, that's
Oh.
too many games for that to be in.
How about sequential? Oh, alternating activations from Lord of the Rings. Is
No.
Damage happening at the end of the turn from Apocalypse.
Yeah, why not? Yeah, sure. Okay.
Seems terrifying.
The way combat worked in 7th edition fantasy, where you pulled from the front, and if you got pulled out of combat, you couldn't.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's go, High Elf Swordmasters.
That's where I get to go. How about a D12 system?
Oh,
Ooh.
fancy.
But
Weird.
no.
Like a fantasy, like like 1 to 12 D12, or like a Fantasy Flight style D12 where everything's proprietary with pictures.
No, like a real D12 system to actually make statistics and weapon skill and all of that.
Let's go with 12 different pictures that all mean something else. On
They tried that Kill Team, dude. You can move triangle and punch square.
Hell yeah, you're always punching square.
Trying
You're
to
a
get
tourist
that
visiting Scotland for a week. What are some of the top places to visit, top things to do, and things to eat? Places to visit, most of it. It's a very nice country. Just avoid like a couple specific, like don't spend too much time in city centers if you don't like that stuff. There's lots of lovely lakes and castles and stuff to visit. We've got shit that's older than your country. It's fine. It's cool. It's great. There's loads to do. Top places to visit. So top things to do. It's a country. You can do most things that you would expect people to do in the United States. Like you want to go bowling or go-karting or whatever. You want to go golfing if you're a golf person. Scotland's great. And things to eat, deep fried Mars bar.
I'm about to find out. So
Here,
maybe
and
that's
if
what
I
I'll do.
can,
Maybe I'll make like a bad vlog and we'll do that while I'm in Scotland and we'll post it as bonus content. It's just me and Innes getting up to shenanigan nonsense
For 1.5 days.
and if I can provide you all with an image of the chaos terrain from FLG.
Do we want to live react to the chaos story from FLG?
Yeah, let's do it. Here, I'm going to share it. I'll share my screen.
We're gonna get a good idea of what time it is where Nathan is and exactly what his IP is.
I'm gonna get a really good reaction of me from this one if it's
Here
bad.
we go. I think this works.
Here it comes. Oh,
Yeah,
it's like they made the cathedral set not abject trash. That's not bad. See? What the where is that?
This terrain actually looks functional. It has ruins with bases.
It's got L's.
I don't like the bases. If it wasn't on bases, I'd love it. But those bases make that terrain footprint so small.
It's it's actually the fact that middle, like the center right one, its base is like a rectangle. If it was just an L or like a U, that base would be fine.
It's like, oh, so there's just this. I can't stand on that because I'll get seen through the fucking
shot.
open door.
Yeah.
Or close those doors and it's fine.
Close the doors.
Yeah, close the doors.
the
You're good. That seems real easy for them to fix. I actually like that set.
Yeah, it could do with like 8 more pieces, but you know.
It could definitely
that's
use
my
another.
WTC privilege.
It could definitely use another small ruin, and then
I would say like 2 more pieces of that scatter terrain, the small wall.
Oh, sure. I meant like those L's, like the middle left L.
It's fine. It's player place. You're gonna get 3 of them. Like there's a limit of how good you can make it on player place, because if you start giving people 4 ruins of player place,
Well,
you're never going to get shot.
They could just do this and then not player place it, bro.
They're not going to do that. Brian made it bad.
We're so close to greatness. That set is almost good.
It's better than their other sets.
Yeah,
it looks like a WTC light board, but you dropped some of the terrain. On the way to the table.
It looks like a good step in the correct direction towards putting more terrain on their board.
Which I will absolutely applaud. If they continue in that direction, I would be stoked and would not make fun of them.
If I played every game at LVO on that terrain, I would only complain a little bit afterwards.
Oh man, you're gonna be rough. The first 2 rounds at LVO are gonna be tough sledding for you, homie. You're gonna be playing on like the Tau set and like the Oops All Forests set, where some of them are craters and some of them are obscuring forests.
That sounds good.
I think that's it for us today. Anthony, have you used the Let's Go markers yet?
Absolutely, I have. Those are the ones I use at my local. Whenever I play at my local, I use the Alex got me really nice Let's Fucking Go markers with the guy like making the face that I use constantly in Discord. Yeah, just that is my objective marker that I use when I'm playing at my local.
All right, everybody. We have given you 20 minutes of extra time this week because we couldn't stop talking about ref calls, so we are going to call it there. Thank you very much, Brian. Is there anything you would like to plug before we get shut off?
So I got to plug the store I work for. It's the artstorecny.com. You can get 15% off Games Workshop miniatures there. They have a customer rewards program. For every $1 you spend, you get a point. Once you get to 300 points, you get a $50 off coupon. Works off to be 21.5% off GW product. We ship anywhere in the U.S. for over $35 for free, so it's a good deal. That's my plug.
Nice.
So check out the Art Store CNY, and I'm assuming that's .com.
Yes.
Yep. We'll stick a link to that in the show notes. So if you are in the continental United States, or I'm assuming anywhere in the United States, you should check them out because Brian's a cool guy.
Is that a thing that happens? Do you ship internationally? Is that real?
We can't ship Games Workshop internationally, but we can ship all our art supplies.
Ah, I see.
There you go.
All right, there you go.
Cool. Otherwise, you can check us out at patreon.com/statcheck and stat-check.com, where you can find all of our extra stuff. So that it's looking at all the ranking scores, whether that's the Curie ranking score, competitive ranking score, sorry, or the Elo system. You also find the meta dashboard there, and also links to all of our other stuff, our Facebook, our Twitter, and our Patreon. If you are willing to support us, you would like to support us, you can check out the Discord, where you will access all of the bonus content, which we should have our WTC draft coming out on Friday. And next Friday, so that'll be whatever the date on Friday the 5th, I want to say, we'll be releasing Nathan's interview from the show I made, the actual show I made. So we'll be doing that. And then this Friday, for bonus content for everybody, will be the WTC draft. Thank you very much, everybody, for joining us. I have been Innes. I have been joined by Anthony, Nathan, and Brian from the Art Store CNY. And thank you all for joining us. We will be back same time, same place next week for our sins.
Bye-bye.